UFC 255 is this weekend, and it's going to be a great night. 2 flyweight belts are on the line, and a lot of things are happening in those divisions during this event. Of course, you got the title fights, but there's also a title eliminator fight and a likely #1 contender fight as well. We've got fan favorite Shogun kind of winding it down, and new fan favorite Hakeem Buckley's popping back up after that spinning KO back kick. Let's just get into it already. Here's my predictions for UFC 255. With such an amazing card, I'm not going to just do the main card. I'm going to do those 5 plus 2 more from the undercard. I'm going to start out with a middleweight fight between Hakeem Buckley and Jordan Wright. Now, you know Buckley's my boy, and I've been high on him for a bit now. And after that Taekwondo highlight reel knockout, it's getting harder for people to sleep on him. His first fight in the UFC was just a few months ago, and they threw him into the deep end fighting Kevin Holland on just a few days' notice. Of course, Kevin is now facing a ranked fighter in a main event in just a few weeks, so losing to him's not really a big deal. Then he takes on Impa Kasanganay, who has a lot of momentum, and we know what he did there. And now he draws Jordan Wright, and things just aren't getting any easier. The UFC has a long roster of guys and girls that could easily fit the role of a Marvel movie villain, but there's only a few that would look right as the hero. Jordan Wright looks like Superman or Batman or Captain America, and he finishes dudes as if he's got superpowers. Like Buckley and Kasanganay and Holland, Jordan Wright is another one of these guys. Young, very promising, and new to the UFC, this is a guy that we need to keep an eye on. He's undefeated at 11-0. He's never seen the second round. He's only made it past the first half of the first round once, I think. I expect big things from Hakeem Buckley, but I expect bigger things from Jordan Wright. I expect him to go a few more at least before losing that O. Hakeem Buckley's fresh off that KO that will serve as a UFC promo piece for the rest of time. Maybe he can do it again, but Wright is a hard hitter and much bigger than Buckley. I'm guessing the wrestling is going to be much better too. I'm calling Jordan Wright in this one, and I think he's going to have a pretty easy time with it. So, Jordan Wright, first round KO. Our first of many flyweight bouts on this event is #2 contender Brandon Moreno versus #6 contender Brandon Royval. This was supposed to be Moreno versus Perez, then Garbrandt had to pull out of the title fight and Alex Perez gets moved. Regardless of ranking, if you're Moreno, that's gotta sting. And now you get a relative newcomer in Brandon Royval. This feels like a title eliminator though, but we've got to wonder, where does Garbrandt fit into this once he's healthy? Royval is certainly impressed through 2 UFC fights and is one of the more exciting guys in an otherwise lackluster division. The only reason Garbrandt moved down was to bring some star power to this weight class, but Royval has thrown his hat in there as well. And if this one and the main event go well, with Garbrandt and Benavidez still out there, this flyweight division could smell a lot different very soon. Moreno has been in the UFC for 4 years or so. He's had some good performances, but he's never really connected with the audience or the promoters. Whatever the thing is that he doesn't quite have, Royval has it. This should be a really fun one to watch, fast-paced, some crazy stand-up, and Royval's wicked ground game. But I think this is a tough matchup for Royval. I can see him chasing a submission as a grounded fighter for way too long. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a decision like that going Moreno's way. And it's going to be hard to stand with Moreno too. Royval showed us some crazy striking the last time out, but Moreno won't give him that much time to pull that kind of stuff off. This seems like Moreno's fight to me, like Royval is the kind of fighter that he does well against, and that Moreno is the type of fighter that Royval's going to struggle against. But I think there's something special about Royval. I think we're going to see a little bit more of it. I'm calling Brandon Royval by a second round choke. Next up is a light heavyweight bout between number 14 contender Shogun and number 15 Paul Craig. A couple of just ranked fighters kicking off an awesome main card in what will hopefully be a great fight. This is, of course, a rematch just over a year old. That was a split decision, and you've got to think that Shogun and Craig are on very different trajectories. So common sense would deduce that Craig is the one who's making the most improvements. I've always been a big fan of Shogun. He's one of my all-time faves, but he's looking worse and worse each time out. That last one against Little Nog was kinda sad. Yeah, he won, but he didn't look good. He looked old. That was Shogun's one fight since the first Craig fight. Craig's one fight was also a win against Gadzimarat and Tigilov and was finished quickly and impressively. I don't think Shogun will have fixed the cardio problem, and his chin has become suspect. Paul Craig's stand-up will never be what Shogun's is, but he does like to advance while he throws, and he's got some pretty good power, but it's his submissions that are going to get the job done. I expect this one to go similarly to the first one, only ending with Paul Craig winning this time. I think Craig will likely have success early, but struggle finding the finish. Then they'll both tire out and slow down, but Shogun's going to fade a whole lot faster. I expect Craig to finish a completely drained and exhausted Shogun. I'm calling Paul Craig by third round submission. Next up is in the women's flyweight bout between number 2 contender Katlyn Chookagian and number 4 contender Cynthia Calvillo. Chookagian is making a quick turnaround. She fought Andrade just a month ago and got finished by body shots. It's crazy she's fighting so soon after losing like that. I'm not a big Chookagian fan, but she is one tough chick. She only loses to the best, and she only gets finished by the best of the best. We know what we're going to get with her, and although she's not my favorite to watch, she is very hard to beat. Calvillo is much more dynamic, she has more ways to win, and her resume's pretty good. She's strong on the ground, and her stand-up's not bad, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Chookagian specifically. Her pace and her output wins close rounds, and it keeps the rounds close. It seems to me the only way to beat Chookagian is to be way better at something and beat her with that, like Andrade and Valentina did with their striking and power. I don't think that Calvillo has any kind of advantage like that. Calvillo definitely can win this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if she does, but I think Chookagian will likely eke out a close decision like she always does. I'm calling Katlyn Chookagian by decision. Next up is a welterweight fight between Platinum Mike Perry and Tim Means. Here is an interesting fight. Tim Means is an interesting fighter, and Perry is an interesting guy. Is he going to make weight? This guy's a psychopath. I can't help but like Mike Perry, and I find myself rooting for him, but I do think this is a bad matchup for him. Perry pretty much only wins by KO, and Means has only been KO'd twice in 44 fights, although he is getting older. Perry has some great qualities, but he can be predictable at times, and Means has a pretty high fight IQ, higher than most. I find it likely that Means fights at a much slower pace than Perry and just finds the openings and picks Perry apart. Mike Perry's also a tough SOB. He's only been KO'd once in 20 fights. I'd say it's a pretty good bet that this one goes to decision. Perry's pace may win him some rounds, and if Means can do enough damage, he'll win some too. I find myself leaning toward Means because I think he'll be able to figure it out. But Mike Perry is like the opposite of Santa Claus, in that he gets more powerful when you don't believe in him. This is going to be a great fight. I'd say it's also a fairly safe bet that this will be fight of the night. Hard to pick. I want Perry to win, but okay, yeah, I'm going Perry. The pressure's going to get it done. Mike Perry by unanimous decision. Next up is a women's flyweight title fight between champion Valentina Shevchenko and number 3 contender Jennifer Maia. It's just such a big night for the women's flyweight division. 3 fights featuring ranked fighters, both Shevchenkos, but I don't expect there to be a lot of movement going on in the rankings. Maia looked really good in her last fight against Joanne. She really stole her momentum, but it seems we've already forgotten that she lost only a year ago to Chookagian. She's only 3-2 in the UFC, which isn't bad, but it's not champ numbers. Prior to her last fight, I just hadn't seen enough to make me think that she'd be fighting for the belt at any point. But she is, and she's fighting Valentina Shevchenko, who's had this division locked down for a while now. She's been about as dominant as you can hope to be as a champion, and I don't look for that to change this weekend. To me, it doesn't matter who's standing across from Shevchenko, as long as it's not Nunes or possibly Jessica Andrade, then Valentina wins. And she usually does it somewhat spectacularly. She's got this one in the bag. I'm going with the champ by a third-round submission. And the main event of the evening is the flyweight title fight between champion Deiveson Figueiredo and number 4 contender Alex Perez. It's just a big night for the flyweight division. Of course, Garbrandt is out and Alex Perez takes his place. As awesome as the fight between Figueiredo and Garbrandt would have been, this is the one we should be seeing. Of all current flyweights, I feel Perez is next in line. He's got 3 in a row, and his only UFC loss in 7 fights is against Benavidez. Considering that Benavidez is kinda out of the title hunt for now, Perez gets a pass there. He's done a lot of finishing in the UFC. He has a few performances of the night. He's a Contender Series grad. But this is Figueiredo's division. I don't see anyone beating him soon. The dude's a monster. I've never seen anyone at 125 hit near that hard. Like with Valentina, this one looks a lock. I'm going with the champ by second round KO. So there's my predictions for UFC 255. The whole card is incredible, so be sure to watch the prelims, shell out the dough for the pay-per-view. It's going to be a great night, and I'm super excited about it. Can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to talk about it. Come back after the event so we can do just that. Till next time.